Okay, no, I got it. Right. Okay, ready? Scene. So, usually on this channel, I have a couple of series going. One of my favorite series is Best Year in Film. Now, I was thinking about doing another episode, but I was also thinking about doing some collaborations with some of my favorite movie talking people. So, I reached out to my favorite movie talking people for the first ever collab on this channel, and this will also be on their podcast. It is They Live by Film. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? These are the handsome men you are seeing now.
Sort of
Hi,
thing.
YouTube.
Hey, you know what we should have done? We all should have like changed our names just to confuse everybody on here. Like I could have put on Adam and then just, nobody knows
Never
we do a
address it.
podcast anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, just never. And
That would have confused me.
I should have pretended to do the Virginia accent.
Oh, I would love to hear you try. Honestly.
I think oh no, I'm on the spot now. I think I could pull it off. I don't know.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's still better than Sandra Bullock in Blindside. So that's fine.
You watch yourself.
Hello, YouTube. I'm
Okay.
Adam from Data by Film.
I'm
Do you want to
Zach,
explain what you
also
guys
from.
do?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I just want to say, hey everyone, I'm calling from a tunnel and underwater and in a tub of Vaseline.
Please help him. Please help him. He's under the water. Yeah, we're for those who don't know us, we're a film discussion podcast. We're everywhere. You can find us streaming Spotify, Anchor. We're now sort of going exclusively through Spreaker, which is a cool platform if you're not on there. But you can find our podcast anywhere you find normal podcasts, except for YouTube, because we're old. We don't understand YouTube and its ways. We basically have two types of episodes. So we have film discussion episodes, which obviously Crit was part of very recently, where we talked about some of the Scream movies. We do also do some interviews with folks who are involved in film distribution, restoration, boutique Blu-rays. Chris normally heads those up. They're always very, very fun and very interesting. So if you like three people with very different opinions talking about random movies, plus Chris grilling people in the boutique Blu-ray industry, then give us a listen. Give us a follow, etc.
Jesus, did you have that written?
No.
Oh wow, you've done that a lot, man. I'm nowhere near that good. I can't even do my own videos that well.
I'm well used to plugging myself.
What are we at? Like how many episodes are we at? I actually don't know.
122, I think, is the most recent episode that just dropped. 122. Yeah.
So a ton of backlog for people who haven't listened to us to go back to. Just avoid like the first 20.
Why?
Probably because I have some really terrible opinions on there. So it's a lot of that's when we're doing mostly Criterion discussions, and I don't like most of them. So you can avoid those.
Y'all are about to have some terrible opinions today too.
Well, maybe. The important episodes are our Goddard special where Zach is wrong, and our Hitchcock special where Chris is wrong. And then you don't need to listen to any other episodes because I'm right in both of those. So yeah.
Okay,
says that after he just gave Tremors 4 stars. He thinks he's right.
Show me the lie.
The links to all of your stuff will be in a pinned comment or in the description somewhere. Just look around, you'll see it. Also, you guys have a YouTube channel, which this podcast
we don't talk about that
YouTube, but you should. It's all right, it's not bad.
We all went through an experimental phase, Crit.
Yeah, we it's not something that we've ever honed. We all kind of have, there's like a random hodgepodge of content on there. We're gonna try and get better at it in the future. But if you want to stumble over to our YouTube channel, there's a few random videos. They're nowhere near Crit's quality though, so prepare for a very swift downgrade in quality if you hop over to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, not that swift. Right, so again, like I said, we are doing the best year in film. So what we've done is everyone's gone, taken their own year. I hope to God none of us have all picked the same year. And then we're just gonna discuss. There is no winner, but there isn't gonna be a winner, okay? I'm gonna end this like I always end these videos with saying it's not the best year in film. Just because I like a cliffhanger. So we're gonna go around the room. I'm gonna go last because I'm the host. So I'm better than you guys. And we'll start with Chris, since we all know your year. Well, we do, but people don't. So, opening arguments and your year.
You want to start with the right answer.
If you think that's correct.
How long have you been doing this now, Crit? I mean, how many, best year in film videos have you done? I mean, roughly. Like, is
I
it
would
like
say like
5? Is it like,
no, it's like 4. I think I've done
4?
like 3 or 4.
Okay.
I've done 4 I've just looked. I've done
So
4.
this will be the 5th one.
It will.
That's not too bad. It only took 5 videos for you to find the right answer. Just fair warning, you might have to create a new series now
Oh, right.
because
Okay.
we will all agree by the time I'm done that 1989 is the best year.
You're on crack, mate. All right, go on. Tell us why.
Just you wait.
Go on. You
So,
can have an open argument. Go on.
so here's my stump speech. To speak about the best year in film, which is obviously 1989, we first have to go back to the beginning of film itself and Thomas Edison. So 100 years prior, back in 1889, Edison and his collaborators sat in a lab and wanted to experiment with what was possible with this new camera. They made a series of shorts called Monkey Shines that were weird. So from its very inception, film was intended to be experimental in nature, pushing the envelope of human experience and pull out the parts of our inner mind and psyche that can only be best expressed through a visual medium. And it is in this spirit, my friends, I bring you my defense for 1989. Although some of the years mentioned today, I'm sure are going to have a couple of films that are better than the films from 1989. I will always die on the hill of 89 because it's a celebration of creativity, passion, and the desire of all of us film lovers to see something new and different or deep and meaningful brought to life. So we're going to do this in 2 tracks. The first track is going to be the fun. I could talk about the fun from 1989 for an hour into itself, but out of respect to Crit's listeners, I won't. If this is our channel, I would. Few that I want to highlight, just to bring home my point that this was the most fun year ever in film. Action USA. This could be on either the fun list or the critically acclaimed list. The greatest film of all time. I think we all agree with that. Phantom of the Mall, Eric's
No,
Revenge.
don't.
I think we do on a subconscious level. Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. What an absurd premise, but beautifully pulled off. Thanks to Zach, we saw Battle Heater. Mwah. In the
Awful.
Line of Duty 4, Mr. Yuan Wu Ping, one classic director from Hong Kong, made the best In the Line of Duty film and showed us all what Donnie Yen was capable of. Tetsuo the Iron Man, just absolute insanity, and it unleashed Tsukamoto, made him a household name in, well, certain circles. Roadhouse, I mean, come on. I should just have said 1989 Roadhouse and made this a 30-second thing. But Society, just another level of deprivation and insanity from Mr. Brian Usna, the unhinged master himself. The Second Fly, which, to be fair, killed the franchise, but held nothing back creatively. The Wizard, a random movie about a boy with an undiagnosed mental health condition, similar to Rain Man, which was undefined but probably slightly offensive, that was a video game savant and brought his whole family together through his experience in Super Mario Brothers 3 in what was effectively a 90-minute commercial for the new Mario Brothers film. Heathers, they blew up a school and no one had an issue with it because back in the US, back in 1989, that was still funny. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I mean, come on. Comedies, Christmas Vacation, Uncle Buck, Weird Al's UHF, Major League, the movie of my childhood, the movie that taught me baseball. Still, I think the best baseball movie ever made. Slightly to extremely offensive movies like See No Evil, Hear No Evil, about a blind man and a deaf man trying to work together. One of them also is black, one of them also is white. Just a ton of offensive jokes throughout the entire thing.
This is the opening
Kickboxer.
argument.
Kickboxer. If your enemy refused to be humbled, destroy him, was the tagline. and Lady Terminator, and I could go on and on. Now, there's also the art house classics,
Oh,
which I'll be very quick with. I mean, I'll leave it here. I'll just say, Do the Right Thing, For All Mankind, Little Mermaid, Twin Peaks, which I know you nerds will like, and the Decalogue. And I'll pause there for a moment.
This is the thing
okay.
Senate does when they just keep talking and they eventually pull out a dictionary and just like,
Yeah,
if I just keep going forever, no one
listen,
else can say anything.
all of us can read a Wikipedia page, Chris. But that's not what film's
Those are
about.
hand
Film is how
selected.
you feel, okay? How you feel. And what you've just read to me is a letterbox list. I didn't feel it. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't feel it. But we'll get there. We'll get Adam. What's your year, man?
Before I give my year, I just want to call
Oh,
Chris out. Twin
okay.
Peaks aired in April 1990.
Oh, I
That's
don't know.
all
I
I'll
haven't
say.
seen it yet. Though.
That's all I'll
Damn,
say.
bro didn't even research. This is crazy.
That's all
It
I'll
said,
say.
why is it listed in 1989? It and Letterbox
That's
it
not
has
my
it as
issue. That's not my issue, my friend.
All right, I'll take it off.
Thank you. That's a score against, I think.
Strike it from the record.
For my year, I don't know how you guys went looking for your years. You know, maybe you just kind of you had a year that came into your brain. I had a couple of years just kind of came to my brain when I thought about the best year in film. But I said, I'm gonna do some research. So I sat down on Letterboxd, ironically enough, because we were just ragging on it. I sat down on Letterboxd and I went through every year since 1925 to present, looking at the highest rated films of every single year. Because for my year, I didn't want to go on. It's going to sound weird. It's going to sound backwards, but I didn't want to go on quality. I wanted to go on quantity. And what I mean by that is, I didn't want to pick the year that had like, 2 or 3 masterpieces. I wanted to pick the year that had 10 or 15 really great films. Because what's the point in having 2 good films in a year? You want to have like 15 good films in a year. Because otherwise, you got to put yourself in that year, in the audience's sort of in their shoes for that year when they were going to go to the theaters. You wanted to have a lot of films that they could have seen throughout the whole year, rather than just like 2 or 3 spattered around, and then the rest of the year they were bored watching some crappy B movie. So before I give my year, commiserations to the year 1958, because that's the year that Vertigo and Touch of Evil came out, 2 of the greatest films of all time. So commiserations to the year 1958. You didn't win, but it was super close. So I have chosen the year 1964, which may not be a year that jumps out at a lot of people, especially, we look at other sort of years around that decade. 1960 seems to one that people jump out at a lot. But so I went for 1964, and I just have a list here of important films from 1964 that I'm gonna run through. That's okay. So before we talk about 1964, we'll just contextualize it a little bit. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink of a nuclear extinction. Just 2 years later, at the height of the Cold War, 2 films are released adapted by the same source material that looks at a world about to be destroyed by an insane chain of events in very different lights. Sidney Lumet's Failsafe is really taut and really chilling. Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove is arguably the funniest film ever made. 1964 saw the screen debut of 2 of cinema's most iconic characters, Julie Andrews as Mary Poppins, and Clint Eastwood as the man with no name in Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars. The latter also shows that despite not releasing a film in this year, Kurosawa's influence can be forever felt in cinema. Another icon of cinema, James Bond, truly grows into the character audiences love today in Goldfinger, perhaps the most enduring film of the entire franchise. 1964 saw the epic musical perhaps perfected in George Cukor's My Fair Lady, while in France, Jacques Demy was reinventing the musical entirely with his film Umbrellas of Cherbourg. In Japan, horror films became more sexually charged and psychological with the release of Hiroshi Teshikahara's Woman in the Dunes and Kaneto Shindo's Onibaba. 1964 was also a year where horror fully embraced the impact of color photography to create a world that was as beautiful as it was horrifying, with the release of Masaki Kobayashi's Kwaidan, Roger Corman's The Mask of the Red Death, and most crucially, Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace, the film that essentially created the giallo subgenre. Rock stars took over the cinema screens, Beatles' A Hard Day's Night and Elvis's Viva Las Vegas. Alfred Hitchcock brought together a duo of Sean Connery and Tippi Hedren to create one of the most electrifying films of his later career in Marnie. Other notable crime films that year, Don Siegel's The Killers and William Castle's brilliantly camp Straitjacket. Goddard released a film that was so influential that Tarantino named his production company after it, Band Apart, aka Band of Outsiders. Michelangelo Antonioni stuns the world with his first color film, Red Desert, which depicts the stunning Monica Vitti on the verge of a mental breakdown. Two of the most underrated films from the Czech New Wave are released, Black Peter and Diamonds of the Night. Brazil saw the release of two films that have since become cult classics, Black God, White Devil, and At Midnight, I'll Take Your Soul. Godzilla fought two of his most iconic foes in the same year, Mothra and King Ghidorah. Other notable films from around the world from auteurs would be Kalatasov's I'm Cuba, Pasolini's The Gospel According to Matthew, probably the most important Christian film of all time, Masahiro Shinoda's brilliant noir Pale Flower, Satyajit Ray's Charulata, which probably is one of the greatest final shots of all time, Sam Fuller's really dark and brilliant The Naked Kiss, Francois Truffaut released The Soft Skin, Seijun Suzuki released Gate of Flesh, Louis Buñuel released Diary of a Chambermaid, and Hideo Gosha released Three Outlaw Samurai. Along with all this innovation from all these auteurs creating fantastic new works that would influence the rest of cinema, it was also a year of swan songs. Carl Theodor Dreyer, who nearly 40 years earlier stunned the world with Passion of Joan of Arc, closes out a brilliant career with Gertrude. And over in Hollywood, Robert Aldrich puts in the limelight Bette Davis, Olivia de Havilland, and Joseph Cotten for what would become a last major role for some of them in Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. But most importantly of all, and the reason why 1964 is the greatest and most important year in cinema, is because 1964 was the year that Santa Claus conquered the Martians. And there's my arguments, gentlemen.
You had me until you mentioned a Goddard film, and then I was just kind of checked out.
Look, this is the point I'm trying to make is with all of this. Range. It's all about range. I've handpicked important films, not just from Hollywood or not just from the UK, but all over the world, all over every continent nearly was touched in 1964 with important game-changing films from directors old and new.
Rick, can we argue at this stage, or are we gonna argue at a later
No,
stage?
do you know, I've got some stuff to say, but I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna keep
All right.
it, and
All
I'm
right.
gonna push it to Zach. What we got, my friend?
All right. So let's take us back to 119 years. And we're going to look at a film. I only have to name one film. And it only took two people and a man named Edwin Porter changed cinema forever when he electrocuted an elephant.
What's the year, Zach?
1903.
1903. What?
And the film is an elephant being
electrocuting an elephant. But I feel like that I thought about keeping that, but I was like, let's just I'll choose a less controversial topic. I will go to let's choose 1968. I'll choose something a little bit more normal. Now, while my two colleagues here have decided to just read Wikipedia pages, I'm gonna limit it to just a few. In 1968, we are looking at right before the 1970s, as expected. It's 2 years before, and for all of you who struggle with math, yeah. And even my cat agrees. I know.
Shut up to tell you, you're talking some bullshit. That's what he's saying.
But Adam, when we were discussing this, had figured I was choosing an era from a year from the 1970s, which is a great guess because it is the best decade in film. However, there had to be a little bit of lead up to that. So what really the 1970s does begin a little bit earlier. So let's talk about a few films. I could really just win by just putting 2001: A Space Odyssey I don't even like put that in my top 5 of that year, but it's it's 2001. Really for me, what there is so much great use in genre films, and I think the reason I like the 70s so much is you have an era where, art house kind of meets genre films, like probably at the best era that I can think of. It really mixes it so well. You have these great directors doing great genre films. So you have in sci-fi, you have 2001: A Space Odyssey. You have Sergio Leone making Once Upon a Time in the West. You have Roman Polanski making Rosemary's Baby. You have Planet of the Apes, which is still being, making sequels today. We have another one coming out next year. That was apparently directed by Franklin Schaffner, so I learned that just now. You have Romero making Night of the Living Dead. You have Clint Eastwood with Hang 'em High, and then you have, I mean, Adam, you have to give me this. Hour of the Wolf came out in 1968, and that's a pretty great Bergman film.
It is. It is a great Bergman film.
And while, yes, the better movie, Ani Baba, came out in 66, in 68, we still got a pretty good movie with, who wants to pronounce that for me? Since we all know I can't pronounce that.
What is it called again?
Kuroneko.
Kuroneko.
Thank you.
Kuroneko is good too.
For anyone who decides to listen to our podcast, I can't pronounce anything. So, that's what Adam's here for, to help me pronounce these things. And I mean, from there, you're going to have a Christopher Lee film in The Devil Rides Out, and then you're going to have a Vincent Price film in The Witchfinder's General. And that doesn't even bring up the, we have targets from that guy whose name I can't remember, so I'm going to look it up. And Peter Bogdanovich. Jesus, my name. Pick shorter names. But just with all of that, and I mean, it didn't even get into The Great Silence, so I just did because that was the last one on my list. And that Romeo and Juliet film that Criterion just released, that is a movie. That's very controversial, but controversy is how you remember years. So that is my opening statement.
Jesus, I didn't sign up for a history lesson. I just want you guys to know that,
That's literally what the brief is.
No.
All right, let's hear it done properly then.
Okay, so as we know, I have a bit of experience doing the series. And I have people throw years at me constantly. So I've got a few that bounce around. Now, obviously, we said we're not going to do any of the obvious ones, right? So no 94s, right? None of that. Also, actually, I just want to quickly say, Zach, Ani Baba was 64. That's what Adam's arguing for, not 66. Jesus.
Yeah, the guy who made Ani Baba made Kuroneko in 66.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but he was like, I know we had Ani Baba in 66.
No,
I think you just misspoke. But yes, right.
Review the tape. I don't remember what I said.
No. Okay.
I think you mislistened because I heard him perfectly.
Okay, my bad then. I'm stupid. It's fine. So anyway, I have a lot of years that I could pick from, and I have my favorite years. But I decided to go with none of those. I'm gonna throw a little spanner in the works here, a little monkey wrench. And I'm going to go for the year 2023. Now, do I think this is the best year in film? Maybe. Who knows? This is what I'm going to say. We've got films from Ridley Scott, Martin Scorsese, Yorgos Lanthimos, Nolan, Shyamalan, Mann, Anderson, Fincher, Friedkin, Schrader, even Ben Affleck and Pablo Larraín. We have so many great filmmakers all releasing really great films in one year. And I'm not just saying they're just releasing films. They are releasing some of their best films they have ever made. Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon unanimously across the board is adored, except for weird Twitter nerds. It is such a fantastic film. Some would even argue it is his best film. Nolan, one of the most popular directors, not just of the 21st century, ever. I mean, film bros love him, and even they can't kill his name. Do you know how powerful of a director you need to be, where even film bros are like, that's great, and then other people are also like, yeah, he's great. He's not overrated, he is perfectly rated, and he dropped Oppenheimer. His personal filmography, Atomic Bomb. Banging film. Then we've got Barbie, of course. We had great debuts this year. Great debuts for exciting filmmakers like Celine Song for Past Lives, the Philippou brothers for Talk to Me, Jewel Taylor for They Clone Tyrone, Nida Manzoor for Polite Society. These directors that quite clearly have such great vision and such potential, and their movies have done well. I mean, we're in an industry where not just the MCU, but superhero movies in general have dominated and have dominated for what, 19, 20 odd years. And this is the first year where that hasn't happened in so long. In the top 3 grossing movies of this year, 2 of them crossing $1 billion, not a single one of them is a superhero movie. That's insane. And franchise installments anyway are doing great. It's not just about the independent solo films. Franchise films are very important in the current cinematic landscape. And we have Saw X, Scream 6, Evil Dead Rise, John Wick 4, The Hunger Games, Guardians 3, Creed 3. All films doing exceptionally well in a year with superhero content. And not only are they beating out those films, they're just doing the best in their franchise also. Creed 3 had the biggest opening for any Rocky film ever. That's insane. Also, I'm pretty sure that was a directorial debut from Michael Jordan, but Adam can fact check me on that one because I'm not actually sure, but I think it sounds right.
I know nothing about Michael B. Jordan. I have zero lore on him.
Could you do you do Googles sometimes? So I was just wondering if you were gonna try and fact check me. Animation, yeah. Animation is in a really good way with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which is hard to do, by the way. It's hard to bring one of those movies out, apparently, historically. But it's doing very well. The Super Mario Bros. Movie, not only shattering what we think of video game adaptations, but also making over $1 billion. And it's actually pretty good, which, you know, it shouldn't be a thing. Across the Spider-Verse, Nimona. I even watched Leo the other day, the Adam Sandler and Bill Burr animated film for Netflix, which is way better than I thought it'd be. I thought it'd be a pile of crap, to be honest, but I really liked it. Obviously, Marvel and Disney flopping is only ever a net positive for the film industry. That's great. And yeah, I think there's just a lot of really great films this year. Also, outside of just the straight up films, we've had the strikes, the writers and the actors strikes, which saw them make a deal where they're getting paid now more than they ever have been. And I think more than ever, audiences and even just the general public were looking at things like, you know, animators' rights and stuff like that, which hasn't really happened before. It's never stretched outside the cinematic audience. I had people at my work who only watch like 2 movies a year talking about the actor strike and the writer strike, and I don't think they've ever really had that kind of shine. So yeah, I think it's fantastic, and yeah, that's my pitch. That's my opening pitch for 2023.
It was Michael B. Jordan's first one. I'll take Adam's role.
Okay, thank you, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll let I was gonna get to Adam, jump on him because he's chose a snooze fest, let's say, but I'm gonna open up for me first. What do you guys think? 2023.
Ridiculous statement. Your main argument was to list filmmakers who have made important films, but like you can pick any year in the calendar of filmmakers who've made important films.
No, I'm saying the sheer amount of filmmakers. Okay. Most of them, by the way, very far into their career. It's easy to be early in your career and have hits. Yeah. But how long is Scorsese into his career? How long is Nolan? How long is Schrader?
I can tell you because 1964 Scorsese released a film then too. I just didn't name drop it.
So you know, that far into their career, not only all of them making films that year, but also making some of the best films they've ever made. which isn't even
But
just a personal opinion. It seems to be a general opinion.
But at the end of the day, though, like Chris Nolan's great. I like Chris Nolan. Everyone knows that. You know, I've done stuff on Chris Nolan before. I'm not a hater, but at the end of the day, Chris Nolan's not fit to lace the boots of Jean-Luc Godard, Alfred Hitchcock, Michelangelo Antonioni. These are the guys who invented cinematic language. Chris Nolan's great. He's an entertaining filmmaker. I like his films. I loved Oppenheimer. You know, me and Zach did an episode on Barbenheimer, and I was all for praising for both films. Thought they were both fantastic. But it's at the end of the day, when we're talking about foundational films in world cinema versus films that are good now, there's no comparison. You know, we can say that
that's
more
what
entertaining.
We're not
perhaps,
talking about that though. That's what I'm saying. We're not talking about. If I said pick the best year with the most foundational movies, we all would have picked freaking 1938 or some shit, but we haven't because
three of us did pick foundational film because we talked about the greatest year of films.
Are wrong. Just being first doesn't make you the best.
I'm not even going to try argue against 2023. I think it's just ridiculous. I'm not even going to try.
Two quick things. One, y'all made fun of me for listing out movies, but then you all did it, and then you doubled down and said, "Well, thank you, Adam." And then you doubled down and said, "I'm not going to do it," and you listed directors' names, so I could do my bit again and just name the directors instead of the movies. But same thing.
My point was, I didn't only list movies. I listed the cinematic context.
Fair enough.
The problem with you doing that, Chris, that nobody knows who your directors are, so you needed to name the movies.
Yeah, that's actually kind of true. Second of all, I'll meet you halfway, Crit, but I can't meet you all the way. There has been an uptick in creativity over the last few years. There are some actors coming out like Rachel Sennott, for example. Everything she does now, I want to see. She was amazing in the movie where she played an awkward Jewish bar mitzvah where it had a bagel on the cover. I remember the name here in just a second. And she was fantastic in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And I think she released a new film this year that I haven't seen yet.
Bottoms, yeah.
What is it?
Bottoms.
Thank you.
You talking about Shiva Baby? Is that the first one?
Yeah, Shiva
Baby. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Shiva Baby, which is so cringy. Like, it's great. It just makes you like cringe the whole movie. I think I agree. There's an uptick in creativity in the last few years. I saw The Menu. Is that what it's called? The Menu, right? The horror kind of high. Yeah, way better than it should have been.
2022 though, I will add.
I'm just saying in general, like there's been an uptick in creativity in the last few years, I think, right? The new movie, The Batman, I think that was 1 or 2 years ago.
22 as well, yeah.
Also fantastic, like way better than I was expecting it to be. But I mean, you can't. None of us can, with a straight face, say this is the best year in film. Like, there's no way.
I'm doing it.
This feels like clickbait, though.
I will say. No, okay. So this is my thing. The whole point of the series is that I'm never gonna come to an answer about what is the best film. Spoilers for everyone. I'm just gonna do these forever until I hit every movie. And then I will never give you an answer. So
see, you just got to do process of elimination. You need to pick an answer and then just do every other one and just like let them do the work.
So I think it's easy to pick a film from the 70s. Yeah, it's less easy to pick a film from the 80s. I'll grant Chris that. It's a tough argument to make, and I commend you for attempting to make one.
Whoa. No, it's the right argument to make.
Yeah. I think it's easy to pick an answer from the 60s or even the 50s. Exceptionally easy to pick one from the 90s. Like, I think we can all agree that is probably the easiest. Since I would say pretty much everyone. No, not in your personal opinion. I'm saying everyone, like in the general audiences, have this kind of nostalgia kind of feeling for the 90s. And if you look up best year in film, there will always be at least 3 years from the 90s in there. People just love 90s movies. And I don't even think it cracks the top 5 decades. So I'm gonna go for I'm going for something that's a little more difficult to argue for. And I actually don't think it's that outrageous. Obviously, it doesn't have the legacy yet because it's not even over. But I think pure quality wise, it does. And I also think, Adam, saying that Nolan cannot be said to be put into these leagues with who says that? You?
Me, I just did.
I think you're wrong.
That's cool.
Because
that's the point of this, right?
Because the thing is, right, sure, Nolan doesn't have the, whatever you would say, the foundational arguments behind him.
Correct.
I don't think he needs them. I don't think, because that's not what Nolan's goal was. It never has been. I think you should judge a filmmaker on the merits of what they're trying to do, not what you think they should be. And for what Nolan has done, for what he was trying to do, I think he's been incredibly successful at. And I think he can be put into the greatest of all time conversation. I mean, how many directors can you name? No more than, I would say, 5 or 10 maybe, that make original movies and have them be some of the most successful movies of that year. I mean, in a modern context, that doesn't really happen at all. Like, sure,
this is literally my argument
front...
for 1989. That's what happened in 1989.
You didn't let me finish.
Okay.
Before the year 2000, before franchises took off, before franchises were the thing, it always became harder to have films that weren't a part of those franchises take the limelight in their years. And Nolan has done that consistently. I mean, he even dived into that and he made, obviously, the Dark Knight trilogy, which is 2/3 a great trilogy. And he just managed to ease out of it, just fall out of it and carry on doing what he's doing, which I don't think many other filmmakers have been able to do. And he still holds his name. Usually, you know, when you make something attached to a big franchise, that becomes you. You are the guy that, you know, like, as much as I love Sam Raimi, he's probably my favorite filmmaker. In a modern context, people really remember Sam Raimi as the Spider-Man guy or the Evil Dead guy. They don't go, oh yeah, Sam Raimi, Darkman. Like, it just doesn't really happen anymore. And yet that's not really Nolan. And I think to say he can't be in that conversation is very dismissive of what he has actually done. Nolan's not even in my top 20 directors. I shouldn't have to defend him, I feel like, but
you definitely don't have to defend him. I feel like you're making an argument against me when all you have to do is listen to our Barbenheimer special where I say everything that you've just said. Chris Nolan is probably the only director apart from Tarantino who can get general audiences in on his name alone without knowing anything about the film. He's probably the only director apart from Tarantino who will guarantee cinema seats regardless of what the film is about or whoever's in it. Him and Tarantino are the top two. Scorsese probably as well, but a lot of the time, like my mom, like, you know, it's not the same. It's not on the same level. Like my mom, my dad, whatever, you know, they'll hear the name Chris Nolan, Tarantino, whatever, and they'll just, you know, normal people will go and sit down and say, hey, I'm going to go see the new Chris Nolan. I'm going to go see the new Tarantino. So like, I agree with everything you've said. Doesn't mean I agree with your take. I understand with you're saying 60s are an easy year. They're easy because, you know, because like it's the best year. That's why they're easy. Which is
no, because if
the point of this is Simon, you know.
Well, if easiness was the basis of correctness, then it would be 94. And there's no point in us doing this conversation.
Well, that'd be a terrible take. 94 is not the best year in film at
well,
all.
That's what you think, but you can't take a general consensus like that. That's what I'm saying. That is the easiest year to pick. If I do a video saying 1994 is the best year in film, it's going to be the most successful one in the whole series, just because it is. People say that, so
it was because it was the year I was born. I helped it, guys.
Samesies.
Yeah.
Me and Zach were brought into the world. And just if you look on your sorry, I'm going to finish up after this. On your 2023 argument in terms of picking that is really difficult. It sounds like this is like I'm seeing a live version of the Pikachu face meme where it's like Crit picks 2023 because it's a hard year. Cricket's mad that nobody agrees with him. Pikachu face. So I feel like I'm seeing this acted out in real life. It's weird.
No, I wouldn't say that I expect you to agree, because of course I wouldn't have picked it if I thought you would agree. But I do expect to not be dismissed. I expect to be taken seriously as a journalist, as a professional with an opinion. And I think we should stop hating on my year and pick on Chris or something.
Yeah, in your defense, I expected you to pick 94 or 2008 or some shit. So at least I was pleasantly surprised.
Wait, if we look across the continuum of film, this won't be as long as it sounds like it's going to be. But if we look across the whole history of film, there were the people that were like foundational in the sense that they were playing with film and playing with what film could do. And then there was a generation that came behind them and studied those masters and said, oh, okay, this is what film can do. And then they took it a step further and made, this is why I have no problem with the 60s or the 70s. The people in that generation studied film, and they were the first generation to come up with an iteration on the people that started it, right? So like they had theory and they had formulas and they had all this stuff to pull from. We make fun of who's the filmmaker that we all like to make fun of because I made y'all watch 3 of his movies.
Oh, fucking Cocteau.
Cocteau. We make fun of him.
Jesus
But
Christ.
like what him and Buñuel were doing with surrealism was woven into like Martin Scorsese's movies, right? So like you had all these people to pull from and just pick apart pieces and say, okay, I don't want to go make something so self-indulgent, but I do like kind of what he was doing visually. So I think the reason why I was tempted to pick something in the 70s because the 70s is the best decade of film, like hands down, it has to be, right? But I went to 89 because there was all of this emotionally heavy, serious stuff coming out. All the films that Adam listed, which by the way, we're not picking on Adam yet, but Adam picked the 3rd or 4th best films from a bunch of directors. I mean, that's not fun. But we by the time we get to 1989, the filmmakers were like, you know what? Hold on. Like, we can go make Do the Right Thing because the world needs a movie about race relations in the U.S. Kieślowski was in Poland and he said, you know what would be interesting? Let me sit down with Krzysztof Pisowicz and let me make a modern day retelling of the 10 Commandments and show the world what it looks like now in 1989, interweaving technology and medicine and some of the ethical concerns we have. So those movies are there, but then the rest of the world was just like doing cocaine and having a good time, and the movies reflect that. The 80s was a time of boom and a time of economic prosperity, and the movies all reflect just absolute insanity and people getting blank checks to make whatever crazy shit they want, and I celebrate that. And that's why my list, although it seemed like a letterbox list, that's fair, those were hand selected in movies that I will defend gladly. So I can post a list if y'all want to fight me. But that every single movie on that list I chose as a movie that either was personally influential or a movie that is just so insane that it should not have been made, and I'm so glad it was.
I apologize if you hear the stampede of my children running around. Did anyone else think when Chris was starting, it started really like the Jeff Goldblum speech in Jurassic Park, where he's talking about like, you didn't make the technology for yourself, but you sit on the thing of giants. I thought that's where we were going. I was like, he's just going to
here's okay, right. So
Goldblum bits.
Okay, right. Okay. So, Chris, here's my thing, man. You said The Fly too. I feel like in your short list of hand selected films that you wanted to open with, not even wait 20 minutes and then get into it and then offhand, this is your short list of movies that you feel like need to be read. The Fly 2.
That's very on brand for Chris. Like if he told me he liked The Fly 2 the best of any of them, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I follow that completely.
I will grant I did read somewhere, so I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the visual effects team who did all the prosthetics and stuff for the Evil Dead or the Evil Dead 2, one of those, did the prosthetics for The Fly 2. and I can tell because it looks pretty good. But that's about it. It's like a 3 out of 10 movie that only gets points for its visual design.
This is going to turn into a Defense of the Fly 2 episode. I can already tell. It's going there. You were opening up a gate.
To jump on what Crit is saying, I'm going to name 3 reasons 1989 is terrible.
Oh, thank God.
Halloween 5.
Oof.
Yeah.
Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oi. Actually, yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child.
Yeah.
Man, slashers were really bad in '89. But I will help out Chris. The Intruder came out in '89, and that's a great movie. That's a great
but
movie.
that doesn't forgive the others, I'll be honest.
But you just picked 3 random movies and said those weren't good. I didn't put those on my list because those movies are terrible.
Well, in your defense, like they're like in my year 1964, I want to get onto Zach's year because Zach is, and I'm not being a dickhead here when I say it, Zach's year is the only year that has me intrigued right now, to be honest with you, because it was also on my short list. So Zach's year intrigues me.
I was hoping I could just stay silent, and then at the end I'd be like, "See, I was right," because nobody.
No, yeah. See, you actually see. I think you may have actually have the right answer, to be honest. But yeah, the reason, like, for 64, if you were to look through the films that came out in 64, there was one I kept silent, one director that I purposely didn't mention. It's because Ingmar Bergman released his worst film in 1964. So I decided to keep that to myself.
Wait, which one is that one? Which one is that one?
It's called All These Women. It is awful.
That sounds like a terrible. It sounds like a name of a terrible movie.
It's his attempt at making like a Fellini style comedy, and it's awful.
Oof. I don't
should have stuck to his lane.
Yeah, I will say the reason why it's valid for Adam to pull out a bunch of movies that aren't good in '89 is because when you look at the other years, to be fair, mine excluded, it's harder to pick so many big bad movies because not as many movies were being made. So just the on pure average wise, I feel like they had better movies average wise. Yeah,
I've got a list of
100
3
big stinkers.
Actually, Chris, will you do me a favor? Because I'm actually kind of curious about this. On your list, was there really any big blockbusters that were big that year? Because I know we named like 3 slasher franchises that were bad, but I can't remember.
This is where I probably have a little bit of a hot take. Like, Dead Poets Society, I thought was okay. When Harry Met Sally, I guess I should have probably mentioned that as far as rom-coms go. It sort of like set the standard. Back to the Future 2, Indiana Jones, Last Crusade, which was on my list.
I'm surprised you didn't. I'm surprised you didn't list that one, man.
No, I was trying to be quick. I was gonna sneak that one in, but we
probably
can
would
talk
have
about
sold me at that.
The best Batman movie ever made was there. That's the year of Michael Keaton's Batman. I didn't get a chance to get into the other side of my list. So I started off with the fun and the insane to prove my point that it's unhinged creativity, which is my jam. However, if we go into the art house and the box office, there's some bangers there as well. Yeah, for sure. Little Mermaid, which is the movie of my generation. And the songs that I knew the best. Ghostbusters 2. Say Anything, the movie that taught me how to love. James Cameron's best movie, The Abyss.
The Abyss is really good. It's not as good. I'm actually proud of you, Chris, for actually saying something good about a James Cameron film.
Yeah, being able to muster up the confidence to.
There's another bad movie though, Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary sucks.
Sure.
Yeah. Adam's just looking at 89 going, that movie's shite. That movie's shite.
But, I mean, it is like Pet Sematary is impressive because you took probably King's one of his best novels and you made it such a shit movie twice.
Driving Miss Daisy came out.
Wait, didn't it win an Oscar that year?
Who the hell wants to watch Driving Miss Daisy?
Sucks a bunch of dicks. But like, this is my point. And I'll just leave it here. If you're gonna go to unhinged creativity and unfiltered, parts of the imagination, you're gonna have some stinkers. The idea that Jason gets on a boat and goes upriver to Manhattan and kills people for the last 5 minutes is a horrible idea. Probably should not have been made, but they did it because in that year it made sense to just everybody was getting checks, like everybody was getting, and because of that you had stuff made like Society, which is a unique experience in film. And I know Zach would defend me on this, and that is whether or not you like it, fine. But that is a unique experience in film to watch Society. And I'm
Oh
so
yeah,
happy that movies
yeah.
like that are made.
Yeah, Society is something else. I don't know what it is, but it is something else.
Yeah. And that's
I,
my whole argument. I'm not saying film school best. I'm saying 1989 is the most unique year in film and the year that has the most movies in it that just should have not been made, but we're all better for it because they were.
I'll be honest, out of all of these, if I was gonna concede on one of these, I think it would be 89. I am a sucker for the 80s. I really am. I love the 80s. Even at its worst, like, Jason. I I enjoy that movie. I don't think it's good at all, but I do like it. I like this. I like the moment where he's walking on the subway and he kicks a boombox. I don't know. It's just funny. So fair, but I think that Zach has been a bit too happy for a bit too long. So everyone go and pick on that guy.
All right, explain to me how Night of the Living Dead and Rosemary's Baby are bad. I would love to hear it.
Oh,
And without
come off
mentioning
it.
Roman Polanski, you cannot use that as a defense.
I mean, yeah, you can.
You can't say, "Oh, he's an asshole." Like, yeah, okay. Tell me how Rosemary's Baby's bad.
Okay, I can't. However, I will say, Night of the Living Dead is great. It's foundational, but it's not the best movie in the series by far.
No, I wouldn't say that either. But
Nowhere near.
if we take what modern horror is today, 1968 is where we think modern horror really is, like where it's going to begin. Like, there's the earliest modern horror films to me are Night of the Living Dead and Rosemary's Baby. I mean, Ari Aster just stole like half of like Rosemary's Baby to make Hereditary. I mean,
don't do this to me.
It's still influential, and so is like Romero's Zombies or anything else. And I mean, we're starting to get into like the slasher era at that point. So I mean, what we look at in horror starts in the 60s.
Well, why not go to?
But it doesn't start in 68 because Mario Bava already made a slasher movie in 64.
You said it was a Jolly, so I'm allowed.
Yeah, don't split hairs with me, Brian. Any other episode, you be in my corner here.
Yeah, but wait, now I can be hypocritical and just not do that.
If we're saying foundational years for horror, why not 1932? It has Freaks and Old Dark House, the beginning of two new genres entirely.
Because Freaks is not very good and Old Dark House is fine.
What did you say?
I would concede that Old Dark House is like a good start for like.
I like Old Dark.
Comedy.
I like it.
Yeah, it's camp.
It's the start of camp.
It's the start of camp. Absolutely, I completely agree with that. It is like the first camp horror. James Whale was a genius. He was an auteur. But it's like, yeah, so what? Like, it's not that good though.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're gonna go 1968, because it's foundational year of horror, you should go to 1932. And also, Freaks. That is a terrible take. Freaks is fantastic.
It might be a terrible take. It very much could be.
This whole video is full of terrible.
What else came out in 1930? Okay, 1932 is pretty good. Vampire.
Somehow we're all going to change our answers to 1932.
No, not at all. Well, look, to be fair to Chris, there's actually some pretty decent films. Vampire by Dreyer, The Mummy, with Karloff. I'm just looking at horror here. Island of Lost Souls. I don't really like that one. White Zombie. I didn't really like that one either.
Oh, you didn't like White Zombies? White Zombie, I thought was pretty good.
It's all right.
More human than human.
It's nothing special, I don't think. But outside of horror, there's also some pretty decent films there. But anyway, back to 1968. This was, as I said, 1968 was on my short list, so I'm going to struggle to disagree with Zach too much.
But surely if it's on your shortlist and you chose 64, there has to be a reason why you didn't go with 68 instead.
Purely just because when I was looking through Letterboxd, I stopped quicker looking through the list. I stopped quicker than I did on 64. 64, I just kept going and saw more and more films I thought were
I will tell you
important.
why he didn't choose it. He couldn't mention Goddard in 68 because, thank God, in a pro to me, he did not make a film in 1968.
Look, Goddard's not the be-all and end-all. Like, if anything, 68 is a better year for me because it has my favorite Bergman film in it, in Shame, and also Hour of the Wolf. So it has
did he make two that year? Wow, I didn't even notice that.
Bergman has two films in that year. He has Shame, which is my favorite Bergman film, and Hour of the Wolf, which is like a top 10 Bergman film for me.
We wouldn't have David Lynch. We would not have David Lynch without Hour of the Wolf.
That's true. Yeah. Planet of the Apes as great. 2001 is great. Rosemary's Baby. I don't love it as much as everybody else does, but I can recognize it's a good movie. Same with like Once Upon a Time in the West. I prefer Fistful of Dollars, and I'm not saying that because 1964 is my year. I prefer Fistful of Dollars. I think it's leaner. It's more fun. I know it is it's just a Kurosawa ripoff film. I understand that, but I prefer Fistful
It's a really,
of Dollars
really good ripoff.
personally. It's a really good ripoff for sure.
Yeah.
It's like one of the best ripoffs ever. Tiarama by Pasolini. I don't know. I think Gospel of Matthew is probably the better one from 64. As I said, Onibaba from 64 is probably better than Kuroneko, and I like Kuroneko a lot.
Onibaba.
Kuroneko is a really good film, but Onibaba I think is just better. Even if we're comparing Beatles films,
Oh God!
like A Hard Day's Night's better than Yellow Submarine. I'm sorry, but like that's that. If
I don't know which year, which one is which. There, I've never seen either.
Mine was Hard Day's Night. Yeah, like 68. Like I said, 68 is pretty great year. There's a lot of important.
Who mentioned the
films,
Elvis film?
but
Who was that?
Viva Las Vegas came out in 64.
Yeah, don't do that, man. Don't do that.
I was just trying to prove a point that in that year, the two biggest musical artists on the planet both released films.
I mean,
So,
you
there you
know,
go.
kind of valid, but
Taylor Swift made a movie this year, right?
That's
And so
actually
did
true.
Beyonce. Yeah, and Beyonce did too.
and Beyonce.
That is
Yeah,
true.
so if you want to bring those arguments, Adam,
64 and 2023 are basically interchangeable then, because we also had films about nuclear fallout with Oppenheimer and Doctor Strangelove / Failsafe. So
Yeah.
2023 and 1964 are probably interchangeable. Let's see. Is there a
so
film
me
I
and
can
Adam
compare
are correct.
to?
Anyway,
Is there a film I can compare to Barbie here? I suppose Mary Poppins, maybe. Umbrellas of Cherbourg. You could
I feel
probably
like
make that
60,
argument.
I think they both also have weak horror years from my memory. I don't think 64 is a particularly great year for horror.
Excuse me, sir. Let me
Please correct me.
Let me remind you of the horror films of 1964.
Please
Woman
do,
in the
'cause
Dunes,
That's a good one.
Onibaba,
That's a great one.
Quaden.
I don't think I haven't seen that one.
That's amazing. That's an amazing
I will
film.
add it to my list then. I have not seen that one.
Blood and Black Lace, as we mentioned.
Yeah, that's a good one. We talked about that on the podcast, so we can plug that.
Mask of the Red Death.
Okay.
Last Man on Earth.
I actually haven't seen that.
Where was I? There was
At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul, you said.
Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. Yeah, that's the Joe Coffin movie.
So no, sorry. I was going to try to do that because 2023 has been kind of a weak horror year. So I was maybe they're interested.
Straight
actually, do you know, I've had enough of this. You see, I've had enough of this. I don't actually think 2023 is a bad year for horror. I just think
it's got some good movies.
It looks weak in comparison to 22.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's the problem. 2022 is arguably one of the best years for horror. Period. It was just unruly with the amount of great horror films that came out last year. So to be the year to follow that is going to be really tough. You know, it's like being another Jackson. You know, Michael. So, but you know, we still have El Conde, which I don't know whether you ever finished, Zach. But
no, I still have 20 minutes left of that.
Great. Talk to me.
Sums it up.
No, that just sums up Zach. Talk to me. Even Knock at the Cabin, which I know is a controversial one, but I really like Knock at the Cabin. Roman Charm, which I don't think anyone.
I haven't seen yet. I have not seen it yet.
Okay, yeah. Roman Charm. Obviously, the franchise stuff. Evil Dead Rise, Scream 6, Saw X, all really good. I don't think it's been that weak. I don't know if like any of these are going to go down as the greatest horror films of all time, but I think to call it weak would be a misstatement.
Can we tell a funny story about Adam's experience with Talk to Me?
Oh,
we don't need to bring. We don't need to bring this.
Yes, we do. Yes.
So it's a movie based.
Before we ask, Crit, do you look at your demographics to see how many Australians watch your videos? Is it a high percentage?
No.
Good.
Great. You shouldn't get too many dislikes then. You can continue.
Okay, great.
So the movie takes place in Adelaide, right? Wonderful city in South Australia, full of lovely people, beautiful accents.
Never been, don't know.
Right? The way people speak is very intelligent and beautiful. Adam and his fiance, now wife, turn on the movie,
Mhm.
listen to about 30 seconds of it, realize that everybody's Australian, and yeet out of there simply on the premise that they can't stand 90 minutes of people speaking in one of the more beautiful languages on earth.
Specifically horrors.
He's
I
fine
can't
with
watch
it any other time.
I can't watch Australian horror movies.
And that's my argument for why 1964 is the wrong answer.
That's this is not an
Wait.
isolated incident. I also noped out of the Babadook after a few minutes because I
Wait, so if we
noticed
can
they're
use these as
Australian.
arguments, can I just say 1989 is wrong because you think Vertigo sucks? Like, can we do
Yeah, that
that?
sounds
Yeah,
like a fair
okay,
argument.
okay,
That sounds
okay.
like a fair argument to me.
I was waiting
cool.
for that.
Back
Yeah.
to the actual topic though. There is one thing I can get you on, Zach. So you
Okay.
said there was one Vincent Price movie released in '68, right?
I may have forgot one, so please tell me.
Well, no, but that was you had mentioned one Vincent Price film, right?
Yeah.
1964 has 3 Vincent Price films,
Ooh.
so I win.
I mean, we're doing quality over quantity here. I mean, it's a good Vincent Price film.
Two of them were made by Roger Corman. 2 of my 3 were made by Roger Corman, and the last one is The Last Man on Earth. You know, it's influential as hell. So there's no argument for quality.
As the years go on, I think the movies that we're referencing are going to fall out. There are some that will be forever universal. I don't think Goldfinger is going to be remembered forever as an amazing movie because people mostly just view Bond as sort of like a misogynistic piece of shit. I still like the Bond movies, but I can see both sides of that argument. It's not
I
like
still haven't seen one.
that's awesome.
Goldfinger is a great starting point. I'll just say it. Goldfinger is a great jumping on point. If you're looking for a place to start, Goldfinger is there.
I mean, this isn't a very valid argument, but I just don't like the title. I just don't like it. It makes it. I don't.
It's better than
feel...
Octopussy. Like that's got to be one of the worst.
Well, see, you say this, Zach, but Goldfinger, the female lead in Goldfinger is called Pussy Galore. So
Yeah.
See,
there you go.
That's
what
amazing.
are we doing?
Honestly, that's hilarious.
Bond was never known for subtlety. That was never the trademark of a Bond film.
Far from it. Far from it.
Okay.
And I think it's Goldfinger. One of the early movies, there's a woman who's keeping his attention, giving him a massage by the pool. A guy comes over, they're going to talk business. He slaps her on the ass and he says, "It's man talk time, baby." And she walks out of the scene.
Sounds like prime Sean Connery era James Bond.
Christ. And he didn't even know the cameras were rolling at that point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, right. So what we'll do, okay, because the way I usually structure the videos anyway is, I have a bunch of categories that I go down. Now, we're not going to do every category. I'm not going to make you go for the Oscars and everything of the year. So I didn't want to make you guys do too much research. So I'm just going to hit what you guys think are the 3 most significant movies of your year. So, Chris, take it away, my friend.
So I'm gonna do Action USA because it's one of the first times a stunt director had a chance to direct his own movie, got a blank check, and he produced a movie that on no level at anywhere along the way should have been made. And he produced one of the more beautiful pieces of action cinema in Action USA, and a movie that I constantly defend as actually great, even though it shouldn't be. I'm gonna pick Say Anything. Oh no, let me do this differently. I'm gonna pick Do the Right Thing because I think it's one of Spike Lee's best movies, if not his best. I kind of go back and forth on a few of them, but it's the nuance and intelligence he shows in discussing race relations in New York, I think are the best of a movie that I've seen, and the most accurate, and also just the most well made. And I'm going to choose the Decalogue because it's 10 series that will make you cry and think about your life differently, and are engaging and have no business being as good as they are. And Kieslowski shows, despite starting his career up as a documentarian, clearly is meant to be a filmmaker, and these are his to me, his best pieces of work. And if I get a sneaky fourth, I don't know if I can. Can I say a sneaky fourth?
Sure, why not? Why not?
I'm gonna say UHF because not because it's the best, because it makes my point for that year the best. UHF to me epitomizes 1989, when Weird Al could go get budget for a movie and do a series of short comedic pieces that are hilarious and wholesome and crazy and weird and hyper entertaining. I mean, this is my whole take for the whole year, is that the movies from 1989 will always be entertaining, not just score high on a critics list or not just score high at the Academy Awards, but you will always be entertained by 1989. And that's my resting argument.
Now, I have a
Okay.
quick question. Did you ever eat the hot dog from UHF? Have you ever tried it?
No, I never have.
Okay.
Okay. Sure, man. Adam, 3 most significant movies from 64.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I'm trying to narrow it down. Number one, I'll go with Doctor Strangelove just because it's Kubrick. So
Yeah,
it's
that's fair.
End of that argument. There's a few others I could do here. I'll go with Blood and Black Lace because the film itself is not just influential. The genre that it spawned is incredibly influential. We're still kind of feeling that influence today with the likes of like, Malignant and stuff like that have come out in recent years. Then for similar reasons, just in terms of how it would have changed the landscape of modern film so much, I'll go with Band Apart, the Goddard film, not to annoy Zach, but just because if Band Apart doesn't exist, then Quentin Tarantino is a very different human being, which makes the entire last 30 years of film an entirely different place. So I'll go with those 3. There's a few others I could mention, like Mary Poppins and stuff, but I'll go
That
with those
was
3.
the best of the 3 you showed me, so I guess that counts for
There
something.
we go. There we go.
I am really glad you didn't say Mary Poppins.
We can't understate Mary Poppins' importance, even if we don't.
I hate it so much. I hate it so much. Oh man, the Cockney accent is
A spoonful of sugar, Crit.
Jesus Christ, man.
Not saying I enjoy it, but we can't understate its cultural impact.
Oh, I enjoy it. Let's defend Mary Poppins.
And if it wasn't for that movie, I wouldn't have to go see like a 20th movie for my girlfriend because what's her name?
Julie Andrews?
No, the one who played her in Returns, Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt.
The amount of movies I've had to go to the theater because Emily Blunt is in it is very high. So that would have been one less time I had to see it.
Okay. Zach, what are your 3 most significant movies?
All right. Well, I'm going to take Adam's argument and put Kubrick 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I kind of have to go with that one.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to go with Night of the Living Dead because, zombies are still hanging around forever.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to say, I got it down between 2. I guess I'm going to put Planet of the Apes just so it's not 2 horror films, even though they're both influential. Planet of the Apes is probably still, I would say is the only thing that's still hanging around this many years later. So from this era. So
I will say I do think Zach has the better Kubrick. I'm not a massive lover of Doctor Strangelove, to be honest.
I actually got to see where I ranked. Let's see which one I ranked higher. They're about the same for me.
I didn't love Strangelove when I first saw it, and then I rewatched it like a few years later, and that film is so funny. Every scene is hilarious. Holy crap! And it's hard for me to rank Kubrick films, to be honest. Like if I was to decide which film I'm going to sit down and watch like right now after we finish this, I'm probably watching Doctor Strangelove just because it's easier. But obviously 2001, it's like a monolithic film. It's like if we're talking about like Mount Rushmore films, it's probably on there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Strangelove maybe I think twice, and the first time I didn't like it at all, but I was 15 and stupid, and then I watched it again when I was.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I was gonna say Strangelove is great for the Coca-Cola joke. That's the best joke in the movie.
Yeah. Yes. I saw it again when I was I think when I turned around 20, and I liked it. I liked it quite a lot, but I didn't love it. I liked it. I was like, yeah, good movie, cool. And then I think that's it. I don't think I'll really watch it again unless I do like a Kubrick ranking or something. But 2001, I don't know, even my little monkey brain at like 15, I was watching that's a movie, but I prefer The Shining to both of them anyway. So If we're arguing Kubrick's, I would say
Hot
2001's the
take.
better of the two, but
Hot take to end my part, but The Shining is boring as fuck.
Fuck you! I knew you was gonna say that shit.
I actually think I didn't know that Adam didn't like The Shining, so that's a new one for me. That's a new
Now
one.
we know the
boring.
next movie.
I've seen The
That's
Shining
tempting.
so many times, though, so maybe that's why I find it boring. I've seen that film like 20 times.
I'm editing all your segments out of this video.
two members of They Live by Film showed up this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna redo the intro in a bit. Oh, okay, fun. And I guess I'll do my 3 most significant films of 2023. I think it's an obvious 3. To be honest, I think I'd be ridiculous not to say Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer and Barbie. I think, there is an argument to be made maybe for Super Mario Bros. Simply just for crossing $1 billion and being a very successful video game adaptation or whatever. But I think those are the 3. Those are the 3 movies. Barbie's not even in my top 20 of the year, but it is what it is. Yeah, I can't really talk about legacy because obviously they don't have much of one right now.
I will give the credit that Oppenheimer and Barbie have at least started. Like you see these studios like trying to recreate that very early, and that is like at least some form of that.
Yeah.
We'll see how long that lasts until studios realize that they can't recreate that. But
Paw Patrol.
at least doing it now. Yeah.
I was gonna say Saw Patrol. Jeez.
Saw Patrol. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't seen. I mean, in my very limited life, because you guys are old. I've never seen something like Barbenheimer before, and I don't think I'll much see something like that again for a while. The absolute hype behind Barbenheimer was ridiculous. Like Oppenheimer, I think would have done well regardless, but it made, I think, about 50 million shy of $1 billion. I don't think the 3-hour biopic about the father of the atomic bomb would have made near $1 billion without the hype of Barbenheimer. I don't even think it would have been close.
No way. Barbie carried that movie on her shoulders for sure.
Yeah, I do think it owes a lot of its success to Barbie.
And Warner Brothers is in shambles because they did that to be petty.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon that I haven't seen before, and I'm not aware of something like that happening before. And
no, never has. It was the hypest shit ever.
Yeah, and I don't think it's gonna happen again. Not in the same way, anyway.
No,
I'm sure like some things will, kind of replicate it because that's just how these things happen. But it is a phenomenon. Also, Killers of the Flower Moon, because it hasn't been given much spotlight. It's Scorsese. Pretty much like this. It wouldn't be surprising if this was the last Scorsese movie. If God forbid he passed away, because the man is old. It is a monumental movie. It feels like a great swan song.
You're putting some bad mojo out here. So if I wake up tomorrow and I see that, I'm blaming you.
That's okay.
If I see a black and white picture of Scorsese anywhere, we're coming for you.
Listen, I wake up every morning and I kiss the Scorsese photo that's on my bedside table. He's a filmmaker you can't really articulate, It's just Scorsese. He's so important for so long, ridiculously long. I mean, Adam, obviously, he has a film out in '64. I don't know which film that is, though. Could you?
It's a short film. Something about Murray. Something. It's one of his shorts.
Yeah.
When was Boxcar Bertha?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
That's not till later. This is one of his shorts before he made his feature.
Okay.
It wasn't his first short. I was hoping it was his first short because then it would have made my list where Scorsese released his first short, but it was off by like a year or two.
But yeah, I mean, Scorsese's like one of those directors, much like Kubrick, where it's even if you don't like them, or you don't like a lot of their films or something, it's just someone you can't deny. And I feel like Killers of the Flower Moon is very much maybe his magnum opus. Not my favorite film that he's made. Probably top 5, but it's huge. So
you know what would really help your year out, I think, is if you finished the Infinity Gauntlet here of like you had Scorsese, you had Nolan, you had oh man, now I'm blanking. You had Fincher. You could have finished like the film bro like top if Tarantino had just made a movie this year.
Yeah, but you have Taylor Swift, so that's all that matters, right?
I mean, yeah, but still, we do have a Ridley Scott movie this year, and we do have a Shyamalan movie this year. I don't care. That's significant. I don't care if you're shaking your head, Adam.
Why are we talking about C-list directors like Ridley Scott and Shyamalan?
Because they're great directors, whether you like it or not, Adam. Whether you like it or not, they are important.
They're C-list at best. And this is coming from someone who has Blade Runner in his top 4 on Letterboxd.
And this is from someone who's saying you're chatting shite. Ridley Scott is Ridley Scott. Shyamalan is Shyamalan. We have I know, Zach, you don't like Wes Anderson, but again, you do have to kind of hand off his cultural significance. And he has a film come out this year that people like.
I think it's I guess for me he's like the modern Goddard to me. I can say yes, he's important, but I can still be really upset about it.
You could probably appreciate that comparison.
Yeah,
Wes Anderson is now your best friend for even contemplating making that comparison. Although Wes Anderson does seem more of a Truffaut guy than a Goddard guy.
Some combination of like Jack Demy and Truffaut, and maybe little touches of Godard, but
he definitely definitely sucks off the French New Wave anyway.
Yeah,
that's where my issue. That's probably where my issue comes in.
Yeah, no,
couldn't he have been more like Melville? Making movies during that time, but making way better ones.
What do we have? We have a new Fincher as well, which again isn't another one of those directors that is incredibly important in at least the 21st century.
When you say important, are you just saying like made a lot of money in the box office? Because
in fairness, The Killer didn't get a box office release.
The Killer,
yeah,
it's a Netflix movie.
By important, I mean he's a name that people know, which isn't a common thing, I'd say, to be a 21st century director and known like that.
James Cameron had a movie this year, right?
Nope, he had that last year. He'll have another one in 25.
Yeah.
Oh, it came out last year. What about Michael Bay? His
Michael Mann. Oh, sorry, who? What? Huh?
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
If we said Michael Mann.
I think the argument Chris is making that being known doesn't make you important because like Michael Bay is not important.
Yeah, but his argument, he deconstructed himself when he tried to make that argument with James Cameron. So it's fine. He played himself and lost.
Important is not just being known, of course, but he has multiple films that are not only big hits with audiences, but are also very well regarded with critics. I recently did a David Fincher ranking, so plug. And I think he's a director that's insanely consistent. Could beyond maybe his first, beyond Alien 3, which even still some people defend for their absolute bloodline.
I feel like Chris likes Alien 3. Am I wrong there?
Okay, one of them, I think Alien 3 was the one that had really good style, and I wish he had a different writer. And then Alien, there was one of them that had like really good creative ideas but terrible writing, and then one that had good writing and horrible creatively. I think
that sounds like Aliens. I think the writing in Aliens is terrible, but like it looks awesome. And it's so
Aliens does have terrible writing.
And I'm not making it. I'm not taking. This is not a stab at James Cameron or whatever.
Oh, I know. I actually agree.
I do genuinely think Aliens.
Favorites.
Yeah. I don't think Aliens is very well written at all, but it looks awesome and it's hella fun, but it's not very well written.
Just like most of James Cameron's films. You're exactly right.
Oh God, here we go.
You're spot on. Wait, I'm just kind of getting that jab in because there was an opportunity, but by the way, I want to mention to y'all just before we move off of 23, I saw Barbie finally on a plane just 2 days ago.
I swear you watch every movie on a plane.
I spend a lot of time on planes. At least new movies, yeah. But I don't get what the controversy was about. I mean, it's a cute movie, like it's fine, but I don't get what the controversy is about.
What do you mean?
Like,
What
have
controversy?
men become so thin-skinned that they can't
Yes.
Oh,
watch
yes,
like
yes.
20 minutes of that
Against
movie and just be
yes.
like offended?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
mean, the controversy happened before anyone had seen a minute of that film. Like, it
Mhm.
was already decided.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The whole
it
point
didn't
of the
even matter.
movie is just like grow up and be your own person and not be codependent. Like that's not a controversial message. It's a sweet message for young girls.
If you're a sane person, then
Yeah, Chris, you don't know many people in the film sphere, do you? They're not stable people. I can tell you that.
So much controversy around that movie. And I
It
was
is
so
such a
disappointed.
harmless movie.
It is.
Can I note it's going to be hilarious if Ryan Gosling wins the Oscar, but nobody else does? Just because it feels like against everything.
Because he's Knuff.
He's Knuff.
And I guess to be fair, I'll just throw in the last director, I guess I'll say. But Friedkin's last movie came out this year, which I think is worth noting because the K Mutiny Court Martial is a fantastic movie, and I think it's going to be one of the more underrated films of the year. Because it just got shoved to the back of a streaming service. You know, it didn't get much of a release. Also, the disrespect to drop it pretty much the same day of The Exorcist Believer, I think is pretty insane.
No, that's Taylor Swift's fault because it was supposed to come out a week before.
Yeah, blame Taylor Swift. Sure,
it's all Taylor's fault.
I'm okay with blaming Taylor Swift, but it is a fantastic movie, and he does so much with such little. It's pretty much one location, no visual stimuli really at all. Just great performers doing mountains of dialogue, and it's fantastic. So 2023, the last Friedkin year. Okay, right. So yeah, does everybody? So this is kind of my own like little awards ceremony that I do. So, Chris, who do you think is the best director of your year? Who do you think, like, if you were going to give best director?
It's going to be either, as much as I want to say Jon Stewart for Action USA, even in my homerism, I will understand that that's probably not the actual best director of the year. I think it has to be Spike Lee and Do the Right Thing. I think this is his year.
Yeah, I can respect that. Okay, Adam.
Easy, Kubrick.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
No more arguments needed.
And Zach?
Well, I purposely avoided not saying Kubrick because I already knew he was going to be on here once. So I'm going to put Sergio Leone. So that's always a good one to go with.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
And then I think I have to give it to either Scorsese or Nolan. I'm going to give it to Scorsese, just because that's my number one of the year. So I'll do that. But I think it easily could have went to Nolan.
Nolan's going to be in shambles when he loses out the Oscar this year, and it's probably his last chance.
Yeah. Ah, well, he's all right. Chris, who would you give best actor to? Jason.
It has to be Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, hands down.
Okay, sure, man. Why not? Okay.
Or Jean-Claude Van Damme in Kickboxer. That's his best role.
I'll accept that. We'll go with that one. Adam.
Once again, Dr. Strangelove goes to Peter Sellers because he didn't just play one or two good characters, he played three. So
yeah. And Zach?
I'm going to go with Klaus Kinski and The Great Silence because he was an asshole in life and he's a great asshole in that movie, so it worked out perfectly.
Okay. I think I'm again going to go for probably the obvious, Cillian Murphy. I truly do think this is his year, and I think there will be riots if he doesn't win the Oscar next year. But I would also actually like to give a shout out to Nick Cage, who has done about 5 movies or something this year. And I hear all of them have been received very well. So there's that. Also, Matt Damon delivered in both Air and Oppenheimer, and I'd say Kiefer Sutherland for the Kane, the Kane, the Kane Mutiny Court Martial. Jesus. So yeah, best actress, Chris. Wow. See,
I think
this is why 89 can't be it. You can't be struggling for the women.
in 1989 was the year of the men. I'm not gonna
Boo.
us men have had a lot of good years. I'm not gonna defend that. That's a position I'm not proud of, but it's a position that's true. I'm just finding her name quickly. I know the answer, but I'm not super abreast on my Polish actors and actresses. The woman, the lead actor in Decalogue 2, whose name I'm going to say shortly. Her name is Christina Yanda. It's a heartbreaking, harrowing tale of a very tough ethical decision, and I think she nails the humanity, and I think she nails the toughness of having to make the decisions that she makes in Decalogue 2. So Christina Yanda is my choice.
Okay, Adam.
There's a lot of good actresses in my year, unlike Chris. So it's kind of tough for me to narrow down, but I'm gonna go with Catherine Deneuve in Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
And Zach, I think I know where you're going. I think.
I don't. I'd be actually surprised. So I was going to go with Mia Farrow because that was kind of the obvious choice. But I actually think Liv Ullmann in Hour of the Wolf is phenomenal in that film, and I just think she gave a better performance. I think it's a very understated one.
Okay.
She's fantastic in that.
Yeah, I thought you was going to go with Mia, but yeah, okay.
Liv Ullmann is the GOAT. That's the right answer, Zach. She is the
Yes.
GOAT.
Fair. And I think I have a lot of options. I mean, Margot, obviously, for Barbie, great shout. Greta Lee for Past Lives would be a great shout. Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer. I haven't seen Anatomy of a Fall, but I hear that is it Sandra Huller, I think. I hear that she's really great in that movie, but I think again, Lily Gladstone. I mean, even though she isn't the protagonist of Killers of the Flower Moon, she is absolutely the heart of that movie, and I don't think it works without her. So, yeah.
And she's been in 2 movies this year. She was in a acid animated western as well earlier this year.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I didn't see it, but I saw that she was in that.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating. Where after she wins the Oscar this year, they'll be like, "Huh, that same year she played in an animated acid western that was rotoscoped the entire way through."
Oh wow.
Okay, and I guess just before we'll wrap up, then I just want everyone to give their personal top 5 of their year. Don't have to explain or anything, but just list your top 5. Chris?
Sure. Action USA, In the Line of Duty 4, Roadhouse, Do the Right Thing, and the Decalogue.
Nice. Roadhouse, jeez. Adam.
Yeah. Trying to put them into yeah, there's not going to be in any order or anything like that. Doctor Strangelove.
Yep.
Fistful of Dollars. Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Ooh, The Mask of the Red Death. And we'll say Band Apart.
Nice. Zach?
Mine is also not in any particular order, so it's going to be Rosemary's Baby, Planet of the Apes, Night of the Living Dead, Targets, which I feel like I haven't got to talk enough about. It may be like the best film of this year. It's fantastic, and everyone should go see it. And Witchfinders General is also really good, but I didn't get to talk
I was hoping
about.
you added that one.
Nice.
So good.
Okay, mine is ordered just because it's coming straight off my ranked list. But from 5 to 1, we have Past Lives. 4 is a little indie British film called Scrapper. Then we have Oppenheimer, Rye Lane, and then of course Killers of the Flower Moon. Okay, so I think that does it. I think it was quite obvious that I'm correct. So I'm glad that we could all get together and have a little fun time. I will say, I think Zach got it right out of all of us.
Thank you. That's all I
Um,
need to hear for my
I
validation.
I don't think it's the greatest year in film, period. But I think it is the greatest argument put forth today. Just because no one really had anything to say, like at all. There was no real rebuttals for your
That's because he
year.
didn't make an argument. He just
He
listed out
did
movies.
yeah,
I didn't
and
have to. I
we
didn't have
had
to.
nothing. We had nothing. I was looking up movies from that year, and I was like, yeah, I've got nothing.
Which you guys,
Hey.
I gave you 2 years to attack, and y'all didn't attack 1903 either. So
Listen, I already argued that his film only has one Vincent Price, or his year only has one Vincent Price film and -3. So
Okay,
there you go.
you did say this was a list about quantity and not quality. So I guess that follows what you started with.
okay, that's fair. Right. So, is there anything you guys would like to say before we sign out?
Yeah, I learned you guys don't like to have fun at the movies, which is just soul
Hey,
crushing.
yeah. He says the guy that doesn't like
Soul
Cameron.
crushing.
Well,
Cameron.
I don't know if any of us understood the assignment.
We
Actually,
just-
I would like to just say, to throw it out there, but I already did a video on this year, so I didn't pick it. But I think that 76 is my front runner for the best year in film. You guys should go and look at 76. It's fucking phenomenal.
I was actually shocked none of us chose a year from the 70s. Like somehow we all
Yeah.
avoided that. That's actually pretty. I'm actually impressed
Oh.
with that.
That was my backup.
I think
1975 was my backup.
Yeah, I feel like you could just pick a year from the 70s and be pretty much correct. So
I really thought one of y'all would do 1955 just for what it's worth.
It was on
Especially
my
Adam.
shortlist. Yeah, it was
Okay.
on my shortlist. I had
I
like 4 or
would.
5 years I was like trying to decide between.
I was thinking about it, and then I thought, you know what? I'm not a pensioner yet. I'm not that old, so I'm not going to pick 55.
I mean, with
So
55, the advantage is you just say Night of the Hunter, and then you don't have to say anything else. And you're like, all right, that's good,
Pretty
good,
much.
good. Yeah.
Sums it up. 55 was great though as well. Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah. So
Well, Crit,
okay,
thank you for inviting us on.
Yeah, this is a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
it was
we-
really fun.
We do respect you as a journalist and a professional, whatever
Oh, you
whatever you
shouldn't.
said. That's why we're here. Even
You
if your
shouldn't.
take is terrible, generally there's a lot of respect for you.
I mean, do you know what? I'll accept that because there was a lot of terrible takes in this video. And I feel like my pick for 2023 as the best year in film is weirdly not the worst take that was presented in this film today. I mean, in this video. So I'll take that. I think the worst take so far is The Shining. I just look at you differently, and I need you to know that. Adam. So
That's
yeah.
fine. I don't need to be loved. I just need to be right.
Okay, sure. Whatever, man. I guess it's time to sign out then. So I have a little thing. So whether it's a movie from one of the years that we've spoken about or not, as always, keep watching movies. And we're done.
Cool. That was a lot of fun.
Awesome. That was fun.